Good evening to August gathering and a hearty welcome to all of you. I'll begin this evening session with the lines. God is never going to come down from a cloud and say that now you have got permission to be successful. Why am I saying these lines today is that we all believe that success is the outcome of continuous efforts, determination, and consistency. And Rabindranath Tagore University believes in that, lives in that, and performs that. With the support of all the eminent speakers, all the eminent esteemed organizations, we are day by day moving towards the excellence. Good evening once again to August Gathering. I, Dr. Sangeeta Johari, Dean, Faculty of Humanities and Liberal Arts and IQAC Coordinator from Rabindranath Tagore University, welcomes you all on this celebration of World Environment Day, 5th June 2021, in the webinar titled SDG 9 talks about industry, innovation, and infrastructure. I extend hearty welcome to our chief guest of this today's session is Dr. R.K. Ilangovan Sir, DG Fasle, Ministry of Labor and Employment, Government of India. Before I proceed further, permit me to share that this event of SDG 9 is being hosted by Rabindranath Tagore University, the Faculty of Management, Commerce and Humanities and Liberal Arts, with the immense support of National Institute of Disaster Management and also ERDMP, which talks about Environment Rehabilitation and Disaster Management Program, Bhopal. In the beginning, at the outset, I express sincere gratitude to both the esteemed institutions for giving us the valuable guidance to organize this wonderful webinar on SDG 9, which is talking about the industry, innovation, and infrastructure. And I also extend thanks to Dubey sir for arranging the presence, the benign presence of the Honorable Chief Guest of today's session, Dr. R.K. Ilangovan sir, DGFASLI, Ministry of Labor and Employment, Government of India. I also extend welcome to our Honorable Vice Chancellor sir, Dr. Dhun Prakash Pethia sir, and respected Registrar sir. And I extend welcome to the guest of honor of today's session, Major General Manoj Kumar Bindal, sir. We also have got a privilege to hear from sir on the occasion of the Youth Day on 12th January. And we were really indeed blessed to have the knowledge from sir's side. It is again our privilege to have Manoj sir with us today. Thank you, sir, for your benign presence. Manoj
Dr.
Sir,
Johari, our chief guest has joined. Sorry for interruption. Chief guest has joined.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. So I again extend warm welcome to Ilangovan sir. Sir, am I audible to you? Dr. R.K. Ilangovan sir.
Yeah, ma'am, you're audible. I'm listening to you for the past 5 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your benign presence. And we are really blessed to have you on this occasion. Thank you, sir. So moving with my welcome speech, again, I extend the welcome to our Manoj sir. In this regard, I extend welcome to Sri Rajiv Agrawal sir, President of Association of All Industries, Mandideep. And we call him as a motivational guru across globe. He has delivered thousands of speech to change the life of the individual. Rajiv sir, am I audible to you? Hearty welcome on this occasion.
Rajiv Thank you very much. Heard every word that you said. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I also extend welcome to Dr. Rakesh Dubey sir, who is constantly in touch with me and always guiding me, acting as a mentor to me to organize this wonderful event. So welcome Rakesh sir on this board. And I also welcome Ram Shankar Meena sir, who has immensely supported us to have the August gathering on this platform across India from the various industrial backgrounds. And we have a group of, you can say, we have the participants, which is having students, teachers, industry professionals who are really aiming and who are really dreaming to have some different dimensions related to industry to preserve our future generation. So I extend welcome to Ram sir. I also extend welcome to our all respected deans and HODs of respective departments and of various institutions and all the coordinator of this event. So once again, welcome to all. And this was about my welcome speech. Now, moving further, when you talk about sustainability, it talks about that an investment isn't not an investment if it destroys the planet. Recently, we have really seen our environment, again, with a keen eye, and this COVID situations really shattered us to think about something different, something new, and to come forward with, again, a different thought to preserve our future generation. We all know about Sustainable Development Goals, and we all know about the mission. In the morning, Dr. Dubey was addressing that knowing only is not suffice the purpose. The real thing is to bring it out in the action, and the real thing is to find it out how we can sustain our world for the future. So in this regard, it is my indeed privilege to invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, to give us a deep insight about specifically what the SDG 9 is all about and how we can thrust upon this for having a bright future ahead. So Honorable VC, Sir, it is for you to address the gathering.
Thank you, Dr. Sangeeta. Dr. R.K. Elangon, sir, DG FSALI, Ministry of Labor and Employment. Dr. Raji Agrawalji, President, Association of All Industries, Mandideep. Major General Manoj Kumar Bindalji, Executive Director, NIDM. Dr. Rakesh Dubeji, Chairman, ERDMP Bhopal. Then Dr. Vijay Singh ji will be joining very soon, Registrar RNTU, Dr. Sangeeta Johri, Dean RNTU, and most important, all the participants from across India, and I have been told some are from overseas also. So once again, I welcome you all for this national webinar on SDG 9, that is Industry, Innovation and Infrastructure. I will not go into much details, but when we talk about the Sustainable Development Goal 9, it is basically talks about controlling the greed. I'm repeating the word, starting the thing with it, greed of exploiting the resources. I'm repeating the word, greed of exploiting the resources in such a way to make sure that the continuous availability for not only to be utilized by the present generation, but also the future generation without any harmful impact on the environment. If that has been achieved, it means we have achieved the sustainable goal. But we have to see the problems, what are the problems which are coming on the way to achieve these kind of goals. Over exploitation is always leads to the disasters. Dr. Rakesh Dubeji is dealing with the disaster management, so he will talk about it more. But basically, it is an over exploitation which always leads to this thing, and that is directly related to the greed of the people as such. So it is a known fact that we can never have a sustainable development planning without taking into consideration the probable disasters due to the over exploitation. So the sustainable development planning has to go hand to hand with the disasters management planning, likely what is the probability and what can be done in case if this happens to it. That is why the professional knowledge of disaster management becomes the prerequisite, I can say it, for planning the sustainable development. The disaster management is just like a Stephanie, or the fifth wheel of the vehicle, of that growth vehicle, I can say it, which is to be used only if needed. But if the Stephanie is there, then it always gives you the confidence to drive the car, because then your entire concentration on the road and to the destination to reach. So the fifth wheel is very important, and that is basically a Stephanie of the disasters management along with the development goals and the development planning as such. So in this case, in case if we have the Stephanie like the fifth wheel as a disaster management, we can reach to the destination without tension, how it is going, and then we can concentrate on the development, and we can reach on time and we can reach it safely. So therefore, we should always have a room for discussing the same, its probability, what could be the probability of the disasters. Disasters means the road, the stones coming on the road, and how we can remove them to reach the destinations. And what is the preparedness to face the same? So the probability on one side, if there is no probability or very less probability, your preparedness will be less, but the probability is more, then your preparedness has to be high. And then only we can go to the sustainable development. Otherwise, all these restrictions will come on the way. So advanced prediction and advanced preparedness always help us to basically always help us to but I can say you can achieve the destination on time, and this will help us to the society efficiently and effectively. While aiming at achieving the sustainable development goal, we never get the ideal roads. आप ये सोचे कि आप अरे आराम से sustainable goal, this will never happen. So whenever we go for a journey, you never get the ideal roads, and all the time there is always the jerks, problems on the road, but still we have to move on. We cannot stop because our destination is there. We have to reach to the destination of development. So number of times the disasters cannot be avoidable even with so therefore we have to have a proper knowledge, predictions, planning of this thing, which we call it the disaster risk reduction plan. How we can reduce it if we can't avoid it is an integral part of the social and economic development, and that is also the part of this sustainable development 9. So the greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save us. No, we have to save ourselves. So all of you know that only the better disaster management, predictions and planning can only save us. हम हमेशा भगवान के भरोसे नहीं रह सकते. So this natural disaster also we have to take care of the planning. One of the first condition of happiness is the link between the man and nature. I'm coming to the next point. When we go, when we become bored, we try to go for holidays. Where we want to go holidays? Either we go to the seashore to enjoy the nature, or go to the Himalaya to enjoy the nature. Basically, it is the happiness that gives you the link between the man and the nature. If that should not be broken, if that is broken, that is the message this to everyone on this environment day, that if till we have a link between man and nature, man means it includes woman, otherwise Sangeeta madam will become angry. So this man, when I am using the word, basically the link has to be there between the man and nature, and that shall not be broken. That is also the part of it. And that is what I want to extend on this environment day to everyone. Please maintain that link as such. But if people understand this, and if they stop deforestation, that's another point which is released to the SDP 9. Problems cannot be solved at the same level of awareness that created them. Hello?
Yes, sir. Please continue.
Acha, okay. So that is why, because these are not predictable and the awareness is not there, that is why we need NIDM is there, RNTU is there, EDRMP is there, and we all have to play our roles so that we can achieve the sustainable development goals defined under 9 class, because every NIDM has its own role to play, RNTU has its own role to play, ERDMP, and if it becomes all together, then certainly SDP 9 can be achieved without any problem. We all have to play our roles. And that is why this webinar. We do not inherit the earth or the nature basically from ancestors. But if we try to look at that, we have borrowed from our children. जो हमें प्रॉपर्टी मिलती है, हमें सोचता है कि हमने अपने पुरखों से ली है. नहीं, आपने आपके पुरखों से नहीं ली है, आपने अपने बच्चों से उधार ली है, क्योंकि whatever we got it, we have to give it back to our children. So if that is the thinking, if we can cultivate, if this is what we have borrowed from the children, so the nature has to be given back to the people in the same condition as we have taken from our father and mothers as such. So we do not see just as in nature with our eyes. It is just a mechanical process when we look at from the eyes. But we have to see from the understanding And we always have to see the nature from the heart, not from eyes. Eyes is a mechanical viewing, but nature is not just a tree and other thing. Nature is our life. Nature is our God. Nature is our goddess. And that will come only from the heart. So this is another point when we talk about the relationship between man and nature, and today's environmental day, we have to commit that we will always look at the nature as a god or goddess as such, and we have to always preserve them. And we will never consider as a mechanical process. It has to be a heart emotional process as such. So it is basically a mix of emotions and rationality when we would like to save the nature as such. Now, whenever you go to seashore, whenever you go to the forest, whenever you go to the near the river, try to understand it, what the nature has given to us and how we are exploiting it. The main idea behind making this June 5 as a World Environment Day is to raise the awareness about the environmental issues like global warming. We all are aware that the temperature of the world is rising, the level of the sea is rising every year. So the marine pollution is there, human overpopulation is there. We have grown up more than what is the sustainability of the earth. It has spread so far very wide. And that's why the World Environment Day has become a global platform for countries to reach out to the public so that public can be made aware by through this celebrating the World Environment Day. Like we have, hello, hello. Yeah, we have different themes. Like last year, we have a theme, beat the air pollution. And the theme for this World Environment Day, we have the ecosystem restoration. So every year we started to have the different kind of themes for this global environment problems. We have number of problems. I'll not go into details, but quickly I'll say that global warming, everybody is aware of it. We have the ozone depletion and depletion that is going to be cause very much seriousness, or sharp decrease of the forest cover that everyone is aware of it. We have a declining biological diversity. Then we are having acid rain pollution. Our faculty from the chemistry side must be aware of it. What is the acid formations? The land desertification is there. The faculty from agriculture is very well aware of this. Then the marine pollution and the damages are there. The water pollution and the fresh water resources shortage is there. The people say the third world war will be for the water, drinking water. We do not know what is going to happen. So this is the future scene is not scary. I'm not saying, I'm not trying to give you a scary thing, but just warning us to cautious that the nature, we have to save the nature. When already we are adopting the 3R strategy, which is well known. The 3R stands for reduce your consumption to the extent possible, reuse the product whatever is possible, and recycle it whatever the possible. So this is a 3R strategy. If we adopt it, it may lead to at least some portion attaining the sustainability as mentioned in the SDR 9. So thank you very much for your patience listening. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for your insightful words on SDG 9. And surely this is a very broad goal to talk about and to touch upon. So we have today tried to gather all the aspects related to this industry, innovation, and infrastructure. That is where we have the galaxy of intellects from various domains, so as to touch upon the various facets of the same. So surely what you said is that the situation is not scary, but it is the right time to think about it. And that is why we are here to discuss and to interact. It is more of the interactive session. However, the interaction because of this technology is a little bit in a different type, that the question answers will be in the chat box and our speakers will surely answer the queries which must be coming in the budding researchers' mind, because we have scholars also in this in this participant list, and the industry, the startups also who are coming up with the future plans in the industry, and also those who are having their experiences in the same. So moving further now, we have our speaker, the guest of honor speaker of the day is Major General Manoj Kumar Bindal, sir, Executive Director, National Institute of Disaster Management. Before I invite Sir to deliver talk on environment, biodiversity, and disaster, permit me to share the brief credentials about Sir. Major General Manoj Kumar Bindal Sir is presently the Executive Director, National Institute of Disaster Management. He was commissioned into the Corps of Army Air Defense in December 1985. An alumnus of National Defense Academy, Major General M.K. Bindal is a graduate of the Defense Service Staff College and has attended the prestigious Higher Command course at the Army War College, besides excelling in all other career courses in the Army. He holds a master's degree in defense and strategic studies, as well as master's of philosophy in defense and management studies. During his more than 3 decades of service, he has held important command and staff assignments. He was general officer commanding of a sensitive sub-area in the Northeast. He has also been posted as Deputy Director General in Directorate of Army Air Defense, where he was dealing with operations, training, air defense control, reporting, and air intelligence issues. Major General served as the Provost Marshal in the United Nations missions in Mozambique, where he was deeply involved in the liquidation of the mission. He has been the Director Center of United Nations Peacekeeping, New Delhi. For 3 years, he was also the Secretary of the International Association of Peacekeeping Training Centers. It is really indeed our pleasure to have Sir with us again on this boat, because as I said in the beginning, that we got the privilege to have the learnings from Sir on the occasion of Youth Day on 12th January. It is really very much, you can say, delight to have you again, Sir, here. Now, not taking too much of time, I request you to proceed with your session on the environment, biodiversity, and disaster. Sir, please.
Thank you, Dr. Sangeeta Johari. First of all, Jai Hind to all the participants who have joined, and a hearty welcome to Dr. R.K. Langor, who is the chief guest today, and guest of honor, Mr. Rajiv Agarwal. And I also congratulate our co-hosts, Dr. Rakesh Dubey, Director ERDMP, and Dr. Brahma Prakash, Honorable Vice Chancellor of RNTU, Bhopal, and Dr. Vijay Singh, Registrar of RNTU, that the 3 institutions have collaborated together for this program, and some initiatives ahead which will be announced later. So I'm very happy to be on board for this program because it is on World Environment Day, wherein the whole aim is to draw the attention of everyone that environment is very important, and it is up to us to maintain it, save it for our future generations, for a sustainable future. So keeping that in view, today I'm going to talk about environment, biodiversity, and disaster, being from a disaster management institute. So the present global concerns and ongoing discourse on climate and disasters threats, they directly point toward the word environment. Humanity and its rapid development processes are in direct conflict, and often they lead to disastrous consequences. The environment in itself is a very big sector that covers directly or indirectly all spheres of development and its related ecosystems, making it very complex to relate development, environment, and disasters. Environment is impacted by mainly 2 factors. One is natural activities and anthropogenic activities. Natural activities are often uncontrollable, but their consequences on lives and property are usually avoidable through appropriate developmental and mitigating action. To be able to do this, a deep understanding of the cross-sector linkages is required, and the mainstreaming of disaster risk reduction in the development and environment field is necessary. At the global level, there is an increasing consensus linking disaster risk reduction with environmental management. Disaster management also highlights the interdependence of economy, environment, and inclusive development. The Hugo Framework for Action calls for efforts to encourage the sustainable use and management of ecosystems through better land use planning and development activities to reduce risks and vulnerabilities. It promotes the implementation of integrated environmental and national or natural resource management approaches that incorporate disaster risk reduction, including structural and non-structural measures, such as integrated flood management and appropriate management of fragile ecosystems. So worldwide, people residing in marginal locations like hillsides, floodplains, riversides, coastal plain are more prone to disaster risks. The Millennium Ecosystem Assessment, ME that we call, it identified that human activities like agriculture and land use changes are drivers of ecosystem change and environmental degradation. Thus, it is clear that environmental degradation is one of the underlying causes of disaster risk, increasing disaster risk. Ample evidence is there that better environmental management could effectively support disaster risk reduction, post-disaster response, and humanitarian recovery efforts. So I will say that environmental concerns are crucial in all phases of disaster management and vice versa also. Environmental services like shelter, water, food security, sanitation, waste management, and disease control from crucial components of emergency. They form the crucial components of emergency relief. And disaster risk consideration is equally important in all stages of environmental management that focuses on prevention and control of hazards, mitigation of impacts or minimization of impacts, remediation, rehabilitation, and overall sustainability. So globally, disaster management has voiced a paradigm shift from being response and relief centric in approach to becoming mitigation and preparedness oriented, a lesson which has been drawn from the UNIDR. A second paradigm shift is underway, driven by climate change, awareness, and sustainability concerns in disaster management. So this has resulted in a wider acceptance of the disaster risk reduction concept over disaster management and giving recognition to the environmental approach. DRR and management is now of prime concern in disaster management strategies worldwide. So DRR related legislations are fundamental to the enhancement of human security. Out of the 119 national reports submitted to the UN World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction, 80% of them have some form of legislation for disaster management. Integration of environment and disaster management framework holds the key for promoting the environmental approach for DRR, but it shall require reforms and adaptation on legal, institutional, and implementation framework of both environmental governance and disaster management at different levels of planning and action. Knowledge building and perception holds the key of attitudinal changes. So the challenges which come up in the mind are that environmental degradation is reduction of the capacity of the environment to meet social and ecological objectives and needs. Potential effects are varied and may contribute to an increase in vulnerability and the frequency of intensity of the natural hazard. Like example, I'll give is land degradation, deforestation, desertification, wildfires leading to loss of biodiversity, land, water, and air pollution, climate change, sea level rise, ozone depletion. The major environmental changes driving hazards and vulnerabilities of disasters are climate change, land use changes, and natural resource degradation. So environmental degradation leads to disasters, causes vulnerability, impact environment and ecology, relief, recovery, compromise, environmental sustainability. India is vulnerable to varying degree of natural and man-made disasters. The Vulnerability Atlas of India shows that 169 districts are prone to multi-hazards considering only floods, earthquakes, and cyclones. And as per the revised atlas, over 241 districts covering 20 states are prone to multiple hazards. So that means the geographical area is increasing. We have diverse geoclimatic conditions which make the country among one of the most vulnerable to natural disasters in the world. We face floods, cyclones, landslides, earthquakes, drought, hazardous chemical disasters frequently that lead to loss of lives and property damage, livelihood loss, damage to economy and environment, among others. So to combat such disasters, environmental laws have been developed in India in the last couple of decades in parallel, and they are complementary to the development of international environmental law. Uh, so with these challenges, I will say that it is important that whatever interventions we plan, whatever policy plans that we make, whatever suggestions we give to the government through various policy papers should take into account the environmental degradation, uh, the biodiversity loss, the ecosystem failure, and give suitable recommendations so that they are uh, again brought back to its natural self as far as possible. So with this, I will end my talk as of now, and I'm keen to hear all the guest speakers and the panelists for the next 2 hours. Thank you, and over to you, Dr. Sangeeta Johri.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking our mind towards these three major important things, which talks about environment, biodiversity, and how we are relating it, how it is related to the disaster. We are seeing every day, or rather we are seeing year by year, the frequency of what I read from the newspaper is always natural disasters are there, but there are certain disasters which are man-made. And as Honorable VC touched upon the 3 R's, which talks about the circular economy, which is now in, and now we are really thinking about deeply to change the dynamics of the industry, to change, because we know the industries are the major the first sector which we talk about in economy is the primary sector after agriculture, manufacturing comes in, and therein the role of industry comes in. So definitely lot many disasters, lot many mishaps can be reduced by when we manage the industry infrastructure and when we are coming up with the innovation. So thank you, sir, for giving us the deep insights and also the certain statistics to address upon, to thrust upon, and thank you for being here with us. Now it is the time to introduce our next speaker, the guest of honor of this today's session, Agrawal sir. I will start his introduction with few lines. Every disaster in your life is not so much as disaster as a situation waiting for you to change your mind about it. Why am I starting his introduction with these lines? Because he always works on the mindset of the employees, and he always works on the mindset of an individual to change the thought process. If you change the thought process, lot many things changes eventually. So he is designated as industrialist, life coach, master facilitator, mentor, motivational guru. He is industrialist by profession, trainer by passion, and he lives by a dictum in life: do raise your standard of living, but more than that, raise your standard of giving, because giving or the givers always gain. Yes, it is now time to give back to this environment if we really want to survive and to be sustainable in our future. Sir is BTech Mechanical from NIT Kurukshetra in the year 1982, also holding MBA degree and MA Clinical Psychologist Gold Medalist. He is running presently his 3 industries successfully and holding the position of President, Association of All Industries, Mandideep, wherein on daily basis, I don't know the exact statistics, but yes, more than 400 industries are in touch with him, and regularly he is solving the problems of the industries and coming out with the new things and new, and with the innovation in all those arenas. So he is constantly in touch with various forms of various types of industries. He is also the executive council member of various institutes of national and international repute. So far, Sir has trained the IS officers, IPS, doctors, engineers, advocate, professors, teachers, military personnel, police officers, corporate executives, preachers, students, and many more. In a nutshell, to give the statistics, 20 years, 5,000 sessions, 400 corporate workshops, and more than 2 lakhs lives he has touched upon. It is indeed, again, a privilege to be a part, to have him the part of this session. And to be more precise, Sir is like a family to us, because Sir is with the Rabindranath Tagore University since its inception, 2011. With his guidance in the IQAC also, we are doing a lot of innovations and we are moving towards the excellence. Not taking too much of time, sir. Now the platform is yours to talk about the industry infrastructure and sustainable development. Sir, please.
Thank you, Dr. Sangeeta Johari. Thank you very much. मैं और भी अपनी तारीफ में लिखा था जो आपने थोड़ा छोड़ दिया, but फिर जितना बोल दिया. Thank you very much for all that you beautiful words that you said for me. Thank you, Dr. Brahm Prakash ji, जो VC, Honorable VC of RNT University, so much to learn from him. Doing a great job. I mean, RNTU is doing a great job under your leadership. I welcome Dr. R.K. Elangovan, DG FASLI, Ministry of Labor and Employment, to the city of Lakes. Though remotely, but sir, it's a beautiful place. You must come and visit this beautiful university and this beautiful city someday. Major General Bindal. अब आप एक मेजर के बाद एक माइनर को लगा रहे हो, ये ठीक ही कर रहे हो सब. He spoke very well of certain ideas which we need to carry forward. And my dear friend Dr. Vijay Singh and my guru duo, Dr. Priti Srivastava and Dr. Deepti Maheshwari, Dr. Mathur, Dr. Sanjeev Gupta, and what not. Thank you very much for having me here on this platform. So thank you very much. Let me talk something from the industry side, because it's all about industry, industrialization, infrastructure, and what to do. तो मैं दो लाइनों से बात शुरू. बशीर बद्र साहब कहते हैं कि अगर फुर्सत मिले तो पानी की तहरीरों में पढ़ लेना, अगर फुर्सत मिले तो पानी की तहरीरों को पढ़ लेना, हर एक दरिया हजारों साल का अफसाना लिखता है. It's not about 1,000 years, it's about lakhs years, it's about crores of years. Right from Neolithic age, we humans have been the consumer of the environment. We have never replenished it. In fact, if you see it clearly, that we start polluting the day we are born, and we keep on doing it, and suddenly it comes into focus when Corona hits you hard. I still remember while I was studying 81, there used to be ad where Shabana Azmi used to come. That was a time of AIDS, and there was a lot of awareness issues coming out, and there were a lot of advertisement about AIDS awareness. कि छूने से नहीं बढ़ता है, छूने से प्यार बढ़ता है. In 40 years, things have changed. छूने से बीमारी बढ़ती है, प्यार नहीं बढ़ता है. प्यार है तो दूर ही रही है. I mean, this is a big change, and this has brought into sharp focus the need for the sustainable development. This has, I mean, as if nature has pressed the refresh button, and suddenly all things have come to focus. I am a president of industrial area, probably some of you know it, and those who don't know, I tell me, we have around 650 industry members whom I keep on talking to about various things. Now, when I took over, I talked to them, we need to do something. Honorable VC sir just said, you cannot solve the problems with the same mindset which you used when you created it. So you need to change a mindset. And what kind of mindset? You need to change mindset in all spheres. The way you procure materials, raw materials, the way you recruit people, the way the processes you use, the way you sell them. In fact, a couple of days ago, I addressed a workshop on sustainable marketing. I mean, that is fantastic. Not only one, everywhere, in all sphere of business, how you manufacture, the HR practices. I mean, HR practices is a wonderful way. I mean, you have to really think it over. Let me give you one example of one small HR practice whereby industry can contribute in sustainable development. I asked my members, how many of you, I mean, I ask your university, will any one of you employ a person with a criminal record? I'm sure none of you will. But then I prevailed upon my members. I said, we are here for a sustainable development. And if he is a corrected person, he's a small minor crime, and he has a criminal background, let us give him a chance. That is a part of how you take society to next level. They are part of the ecosystem. So what happens is, when we prepare a balance sheet of our factory or a unit or an industry, I mean, there will be various heads, raw material heads, manufacturing costs. There will be various costs that will be included, HR costs, material costs, wastage costs, government costs, all kinds of things. But there is one cost that is missing. No balance sheet ever tells how much it has damaged, the cost of damage to the environment, jo inki chimneyon se धुआं nikla, the smoke they let out, the water that was let out, and it never reflects in the balance sheet. And that is the true cost to the nature. So we need to ask questions to ourselves. Now, over a period of time, industries, मैं आपको दिल से बात कर रहा हूँ. I'm speaking from heart. I didn't have prepared speech, but then let me tell you. Industries are reluctant because they were all about profit. Then came the planet and everything. I mean, you all know, I don't have to teach you on this. People, planet, profit. So there are industries which need to sustain. Right? There is for them first survival and then sustainability. Survivability to sustainability journey has to take place. So what was happening over a period of time, we all have learned, all industries have learned that they have to go for the environment friendly practices. Not because they want to do it, because now consumers want it. You want it. You, all those who are listening to me, you want it, and the industry is forced now to go for them. Although this has become a selling principle, it has become an advantage if you are doing such kind of practices, if you are recycling. So all the three areas, infrastructure, industrialization, and innovation. Innovation comes from, as Dr. Prakash ji said, Honorable VC Saab said, the same level of thinking cannot produce the result which caused the problems. So you have to innovate, you have to think differently, you have to think new things. You have to, but see, industry is required. Aap sabko pata, you all agree with me. Industrialization drives in economic growth. We create job opportunities, we create economy, we improve economy, we reduce poverty, and we make technological advances which make your life better. So industry has to work on it. But then, let me tell you, 3 R's were mentioned by respected Honorable VCC, but let me give you 10 R's. 10 R's. When we sat with the industry, I sat with my members, I said, let us work on this. And my team worked on it and we came up with 10 R's. We said, if it cannot be reduced, any kind of processes, material consumption, time, anything, energy that is being used, if it cannot be reduced, number 2, if it cannot be reused, 3rd, if it cannot be rebuilt, 4th, if it cannot be refinished, 5th, if it cannot be refinished, 6th, if it cannot be resold, and 7th, if it cannot be recycled, then let me take you to last 2 hours, then it need to be restricted or removed. Hello. Then it need to be restricted or removed from the entire system because we are answerable. As again, बार-बार मैं वो कह रहा हूँ कि PC साहब ने कहा, Earth is not something that we have inherited. It is something that we have borrowed from our future generations, and we are, duty bound to give it in wonderful shape. We are duty bound to give it in wonderful shape. So what we need to do? We have been working on several practices. There are 2 groups of normal industries, Sarah. Let me share it with you. There are a large group of industries with hundreds and crores of turnovers, with thousands of people working and with large cache of profits, doing a great job in Corona. We all did a great job and they can do it. My other members, out of the 650 members, we have roughly 550 members, which are MSME. For them, survival is the key. But now we are moving them from survivability to sustainability. So what we are doing is, we are telling them, look, you have to do something. You have to do alternate resources of the power. Can we reduce the power? Now, infrastructure. Infrastructure is the key to anyone. Not for my industry. Where you live, infrastructure is the key. The road, the electricity, the drainage system, the water, all 4 items. Whichever society you live, whichever home you live, whichever place you live, these 4 are the key important factors. So it's with us. But then what we are talking about, let us move from fossil fuel to alternative fuels. Let us go for solar powers. In fact, yesterday, if you have seen the TV, one Greek island has removed all the fossil fuel consumption from it. They are using only the battery power or some kind of solar power, and there are 0 consumption of fossil fuels. That is great. That is a great indicator. So what we are doing, we are telling, let us work on the alternative fuels, let us work on the solar energy, let us help our people to grow better. This vaccination drives and all, these all need to be taken care of. We need to take care of our people. The infrastructure has to be good. The roads have to be good. They have to be resilient, if you ask me. And even power has to be different kind of sources to be used. But then quality of power is also equally important, not just the power. Kitni voltage aa raha hai, kab ja raha hai, it is damaging your products. And then there is a lot of waste that is generated that goes into the environment. You must have experienced, suddenly there is a surge in voltage and some product has gone fat and then you have throwing it away. So the infrastructure need to be resilient, not only from the government sector, from private sector, the buildings that we create, the green buildings that we create, the foods and processes that we use. So finally, not taking much for, I just want to share one thing with you, which Corona has brought into sharp focus. We have always been talking of people, planet, and profit. I come to a fourth paradigm shift, into a fourth pillar to it, which is health. We have just learned in past 1 year that health is probably one of the biggest pillar that is required to drive all other three pillars, without which even nothing can happen. So what I need to say, let us do something about it. And I always say in my sessions, and that is what I end this session with, the best way to predict future is to create it. The best way to predict future is to create it. Let us ask ourselves a question. Are we creating a sustainable future for us? I belong to industry and I happen to teach in one of the premier institute of the country, National Institute of Fashion and Technology. And I have come across two most polluting industries. One is, of course, crude oil refining, and the other is fashion industry. And most of the ladies sitting here will be happy to know that the world's largest landfill comes from the fashion industry. We all have our almirahs filled with the clothes that we bought and are now going to wear, or maybe have not used them for last 1 year, or maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years. Le liya yaar, kabhi kaam aayega, leke rakh lete hain. Those kind of things have been happening. We all are guilty of that kind of thing. We need to be careful. If you have come from Bhopal to Mandideep, you must have seen Nai double road ban gayi and thousands of trees has been cut. They have been felled, and we don't know how to replace them. I'm talking to MPRDC and talking to industry, and we say we will do it. Today we are working on it and talking to them, let us split the trees because they are important part of the infrastructure. कहते हैं सब, जब इस रास्ते पर कोई छांव ना पाएगा, इस रास्ते पर जब कोई छांव ना पाएगा, वो आखिरी दरख्त आपको बहुत याद आएगा, वो आखिरी दरख्त आपको बहुत याद आएगा. Let us create a sustainable, beautiful future for our children. And thank you very much for having me here. I'm grateful. I'm honored, in fact, in sitting in such a beautiful and august company. And thank you very much to all of you for listening to me with such patience and attention. Thank you very much. Take care. Dr. Sangeeta Johri, it's over to you if you are there, or else I can really bore them with more of the words if you are not there. If you are somehow broken.
There appears to be some
it appears she has broken connection. A power ka issue, sir. There is a lot of places in Bhopal there because of rain the power is missing.
तो power का ही तो हर जगह game है sir. If the power is missing, then
I know. There is a big struggle on the power front, but then thank you. And Dr. Sangeeta Johri is back. So Dr. Sangeeta Johri, it's over to you. I have just completed what I need to say.
Sir, am I audible?
yes,
you are perfectly audible, and please continue with your buland awaj. Thank you very much.
Hello, sir.
Dr.
Okay,
Sangeeta,
sir.
your voice is cracking.
Sir, am I audible to
can someone else take over?
Yes, sir, am I audible?
Yes, you are
Yes,
very much
you are.
audible, and now you are visible
I'm really
also.
sorry. Thank you, sir. Actually, sir, it was a little bit technical.
Technical
You have
problem.
just
Sorry for that.
underlined the point that I mentioned. The power is not enough. The quality of power is important. The voltage
That's-
fluctuates, the
that
number
also-
of times
that
it
also-
goes, and that number by it comes. So thank you
Thank you,
very
sir.
much for underlining it and showing off that it can happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So I think Rakesh, sir, there are certain questions.
I'm
but
done
I
with
think-
it. It's over to you.
Fine, sir. Actually, there are certain questions. So Rakesh, sir, can we have that after the address of our chief guest, sir? Can we take these questions after the address of our chief guest, sir?
I think
Rakesh,
that's
sir?
right.
Yeah, I'm very much here, and questions as well as you want. Honorable Chief
Fine.
Guest is
So
here.
I
and
will-
if we can
Right. Dr. Johri,
understand, then probably we can go after that.
Sure, sir. Because there is certain problems also on sir's side, also some power cut issues there. Anyways, so I think Rajiv sir has really raised another dimension wherein, as I was I was in the beginning mentioning that he is every day interacting with real workers and he's coming up with a lot of problems. And as he says, the best way to predict future is to create it. And we always say that ideas are nobody's monopoly, and innovation sometimes do come in sudden. and sometimes do come with the crisis. As the present situation we are seeing, a lot of crisis is here, and because of that crisis, a lot of innovation is happening. So as I said in the beginning, that it is only your way of looking through the things. If you see Corona, it is a crisis. If you see on the other side, this COVID-19, it is giving us a lot of opportunities to rethink, to reboot. So thank you, Rajiv sir, for giving your wonderful insights on the industry,
Thank you.
infrastructure, and sustainable development. Yes, our generation will surely look onto it, and researchers will surely get certain ideas to do more research on these topics and to come up with real-time solutions for the society. Moving further, now it's time to have the kind words from our honorable chief guest of today's webinar, Dr. R.K. Ilangovan sir. Before I invite sir to deliver his talk on occupational safety, health environment, and risk management, permit me to share the brief credentials of sir. Dr. R.K. Ilangovan sir is working as Director General in the Directorate General Factory Advice Service and Labour Institute, Ministry of Labour and Employment, Government of India, Mumbai. He received his PhD in Industrial Safety Education from Alagappa University, Karakudi, Tamil Nadu, MTech in Machine Design from Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, India, PGDBA from Annamalai University, MSc in Environmental Science from Bharatiyar University, and BE in Mechanical Engineering from College of Engineering, Undi Anna University, Tamil Nadu. He is a member of many doctoral committees of the academic research program for the award of Doctor of Philosophy in the field of occupational safety and health. He has been selected and included as an industrial safety expert in the year 2010 edition of Marcus Who's Who in the World, distinguishing him as one of the world's foremost achievers in the field. He is an expert faculty of OSH for various renowned institutions and university, and has been a chairman member secretary of various technical committees on OSH formed by central and state government. He is a lead safety auditor and completed ILAB India Occupational Safety and Health Modernization Program Trainer Academy conducted at University of Texas at Arlington, TX, USA. He has represented India in the G20 OSH network, Rotterdam Convention, and various other international programs and events on OSH. He has been a member secretary for various committees of DGFASLI and organized many seminar, workshops, and training programs on OSH. He has conducted many regional and national studies in the field of OSH, noise and illumination studies, safety audits in factories and construction sites, on-site and off-site emergency plan, and HIRA, quantitative risk analysis, HAZID, HAZID, and HAZOP, HAZOP studies. He is actively involved in OSH activities for 3 decades and published many thematic and research papers at national and international conferences in the field of industrial safety. As I said, always, it's again a privilege to have sir on this board. And this is something, I think, a new arena to explore on. So we are indeed blessed to have you, sir, on this occasion. And we'll be definitely have the deep insights about occupational safety, health environment, and risk management. So I request you, sir, to proceed with your session.
Yeah. Good evening, Dr. Sangeeta Jawari. Hope I am audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are perfectly audible.
Dean Faculty of Humanities and Liberal Arts, and Dr. Brahmprakash Prityaji, Vice Chancellor, Rabindranath Tagore University, Bhopal. My good friend, Major General Manoj Kumar Bindalji, Executive Director, NADM, and Dr. Rajiv Agarwal, President, Association of Industries, Bhopal, and my very good friend, Dr. Rakesh Dubey, very long and old friendship we have. And of course, I should thank the Rabindranath Tagore University, Bhopal, and NADM Delhi and ERDMP Academy, Bhopal, for inviting me to be a chief guest on this August occasion and share some of the thoughts which is very relevant to the subject of discussion. First, I would like to thank Dr. Sangeeta, who gave a very elaborate introduction. Probably that increased the expectation from the participants.
Sir, I think it is a brief one.
Yes, right. Thank you. So the concept of the national webinar, Industry Innovation and Infrastructure, which is a very important subject as of today, and we need to look into innovation and how the infrastructure can promote industrial framework. In fact, to introduce about my organization, DG Factory, it is the Director General Factory Advice Service and Labor Institutes under the Ministry of Labor and Employment, Government of India. We have the mandate to work on occupational safety, health, and environment at workplaces. So, on the eve of this World Environment Day, 5th June, so we are also have some role to play a part of environment, that is environment at workplace. That's the real connectivity what we have. And to the conference topic, innovation, if you look, it has a lot of role to play when it comes to workplaces. We need to have innovation in the workplace, the manufacturing process, and technology, methods, and other activities related to the production process in the industries. Coming to the mandate of DG Factory, the innovation and infrastructure has a very big role to play when it comes to occupational safety, health, and environment at workplaces. It may not be out of context if I say there can't be a workplace which is 100% safe without having a safe process, safe operation, and safe industrial activity. In fact, the Government of India has introduced the National Policy on Safety, Health, and Environment at Workplace in the year 2009. One of the objectives of the policy is to integrate safety, health, and environment with every operation and maintenance activity that is being carried out at the workplace. On the eve of this World Environment Day, it may not be out of order if we say it is a necessity in the industry that we should integrate occupational safety, health, and environment altogether in a single perspective. And all the workplaces should have occupational safety and health and environment as a component in each and every activity. And as we know, innovation happens on various aspects connected to an industry, but its role is very high when it comes to occupational safety, health, and environment. To name few, very important thing is the data generation. The data what we generate in a workplace, in an industry, on safety matters, health matters, as well as environmental matters are very huge. Only thing is, these data are very difficult to capture and utilize it in running an industry in an effective manner. One of the challenges what we face in a workplace is to take the data. In fact, if you look the occupational safety in the data itself, pertaining to injuries, illnesses, occupational illnesses, fatalities, and different work spheres, the data collection plays a vital role. Unless we have a well-validated and authentic data, it will be difficult for anyone to frame procedures and strategies that can augment the process. Same way, we need to have data on occupational safety and health and environment, and huge number of data is available, right from your releases, your own concentration of oxygen in the work atmosphere, your own vibrations, and your own radiation, and distribution of other parameters. Only thing is, these data, if we utilize in the workplace in an effective manner, we can definitely predict accident, prevent accident. We can also have a real-time, safety management system in the workplaces. Same way, if you talk about data with respect to your own accidents, near misses, the near misses in a workplace, or our own behavior-based concept, and trying to talk about the unsafe behaviors of our workers. Voluminous data is available in workplaces. Only thing is, we need to develop system to collect this data and put it in the right framework for better utilization of data to enable us to take decisions which are well informed in nature. Coming to the front of occupational health, it's one of the same thing. The connectivity in terms of occupational health, data among the workers in terms of the health. So there is a big potential when it comes to industries in terms of occupational safety, health, and environment. That there is a possibility for them to collect a lot of data, real-time data, and analyze them and to take a well-informed decision. Then we come to the second issue, when innovation is linked with the IoT, Internet of Things, and how this IoT can be linked to innovation. How this Internet web-enabled system, in fact, the national code, the code on occupational safety and working at workplaces declared by the Government of India, it gives emphasis on the electronic form of data submission, e-filing of returns, and so on. So there is always a big potential to introduce or to get help of the IoT and related things for better functioning of this organization. We have come across, the PPEs, personal protective equipment, which can be used as, a kind of a IT-enabled system by which you can connect to your worker. You can also locate them where they are present, and you can also take care of their access control and how to prevent them to monitor them in workplaces. Many of you might be knowing that a lot of apps or the systems have been developed, particularly with respect to IoT, how to ensure social distancing in a workplace by creating alarm system when the social distance is reduced, how you can take care of it. By and large, the innovation is the heart of an industry, and it can only help us to reduce losses, increase productivity, as well as it increase profitability of an organization, apart from ensuring the success of and survival of the organization. In fact, the Labor Ministry is operating 3 awards. One is, of course, the Prime Minister's Shram Award, operated by the Honorable Prime Minister Office. And we have Vishwakarma Rashtriya Puraskar Award for the workers and supervisors. And we have National Safety Award for the establishment, particularly factories, docks, construction site, ARB-enabled installations, and mines. So these industries, basically these awards given by the Government of India, they promote innovation, because innovation is the lifeline for a success of an organization. And coming to the concept of the present, how to relate environment and our working nature, we always consider the work environment in a workplace, which is within the domain of Ministry of Labor and Employment, DG FASLE, because we take care of the working environment in the workplaces in terms of the air, in terms of the water, in terms of noise, in terms of vibration, in terms of other stressors that may happen at the workplace. And when you look, the workplaces can be considered to be the initiating factor or the originating factor when it comes to environmental related issues. So we need to keep the workplaces, the industrial workplaces, in a safe and healthy manner if you want to make a better environment. If the noise levels inside a workplace is more than what's prescribed, or if it is too huge, beyond 90 dBA for 8-hour duration, it is not only going to affect the workers' hearing capacity, or it is not only going to create a noise-induced hearing loss, it can also allow the noise to go away from the plant, cross the boundaries. It can affect the overall generic environment. As we know, the environment is the one which is surrounding you. So the industries have a major role to play to keep the industries safe and healthy and a very good work environment, which will enable them to promote and protect the general environment by and large. And if you look on the present system as it is, disaster and the on-site, off-site emergency planning in industry, in fact, we have by and large established on-site emergency plan in all the hazardous industries. In fact, the Factors Act 1948, even the Code on Occupational Safety and Working Conditions 2020, both of them give the list of 29 hazardous industries. Of course, in the code, it has been further enlarged to 40 industries. And all these industries have been empowered or have been required to make on-site emergency planning in there. So all the hazardous process industries, they have to make on-site emergency plan. And of course, the off-site emergency plan, as we all know, it is coming under the MSH rules made under the Environment Protection Act. The perspectives of occupational safety and health, the risk in a workplace, it's always we call in three parameters. One is it's the individual risk faced by an employee who is working in an organization, and the societal risk, the risk faced by the people who live around the plant, and the third important component is the environmental risk. In fact, if you look, the safety, health, and environment are the three sides of a triangle. Unless we maintain the balance, the sustainability of the industries is impossible. And this is the triangle. It's not like an accident triangle, which need to be enlarged, whose dimension should be enhanced so that the triangle becomes safer, so that our workplaces are becoming safer and people are free from injuries, illnesses, and other kind of harmful effects on them. And if you look, all the industrial disasters, whatever it may be, in fact, you might have come across a lot of such incidents after the lockdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the first lockdown and restarting of the industries. You would have seen a large number of industries, particularly chemical industries, started having accidents, which invited the Ministry of Home Affairs and NDMA and other state governments, labor ministry, to issue guidelines how to restart the industries after shutdown. In fact, this is one of the issues, an incident or an accident in an industry, if it goes beyond its size, if it is going to be uncontrolled, there is every potential, a small incident, a small near miss, a small accident can convert and enlarge into a major accident in terms of, energy release and creating an on-site emergency related issue. And further, unable to control them within the premises, the potential to create off-site emergency or the disaster as a whole. So safety, health, and environment are interconnected and they cannot be detached, and their connectivity is so strong when it comes to a workplace, an industry as it is. And you can see again, the environmental pollution can have an effect on the health of the workers, health of the people working in an industry, all the connected persons, and so-called your handling of toxic chemicals beyond the threshold limit value, prevalence of them beyond the permissible limits of exposure. It can create health impacts, and of course, all your such alarming scenarios that may arise in a workplace could be a resultant of a chemical safety failure, which may reason for a chemical release. If you look, the fabric is highly well woven when it comes to safety, health, and environment at workplace, and the connectivity is so huge. That's why when we talk in terms of occupational safety and health, we are more concerned about the individual risk faced by the employee. when I say risk, the occurrence of an asset and this occurrence of the asset and what is the probability of occurrence of asset as well as the consequence of occurrence of asset. So when we talk about the risk in terms of the safety and health, we look more into, it's a kind of individual risk and societal risk. Whereas in the environment perspective, we look more dominating perspective with regards to environmental risk. So when we talk as a whole in industry, the risk management is another important issue where we are bothered about the individual risk, societal risk, as well as the environmental risk. And the objective of the industries are to reduce these risks to the minimal extent. The knowledge is available. In fact, it would not be out of context if I say we have a lot of knowledge. There is no problem in respect of the knowledge. The problem is understanding. What I always come across when we go for such investigation, one of the main reason is, the availability of the human resource, competent human resource is considered to be the primary reason. Whatever automation, innovation, or technological changes, or we can say whatever the technological advancements we do in workplaces, ultimately we connect human beings to operate these systems, equipments, and procedures. So therefore, in fact, in terms of safety, we always say the human chain is the weakest link. So it's the pre-requirement for any industry to empower our human resource. In fact, that's the very important issue. Unless we have proper employee engagement program, proper competency building measures, capacity building measures in workplaces, it will be difficult for anyone to have a safe, healthy, and disaster-free industries. So the need of the hour is to pass on the information, sensitize the people, and keep the correct personnel at the correct position so that the decisions can be well informed when it comes to workplace. The second important point is no point of time, the organizations should develop complacency. Whatever expertise you have, whatever may be your experience, whatever may be your authority on the subject, still accidents do happen. The probability of occurrence may be very less, but the time of occurrence is totally unpredictable. Whatever modeling you do, whatever analysis you do, when it is going to occur, it is going to be a biggest challenge. Therefore, we need to be prepared. It's a kind of fully prepared situation when it comes to industry to face these occurrences which may happen at any point of time. There is a need that we should get rid of the complacency factor by implementing the procedures, protocols in our workplaces. The third point, my view is that we need to have, all the industries have procedures and protocols. Basically, they have a lot of standard operating procedures, standard maintenance procedures, restart procedures, shutdown procedures, emergency procedures, and so on, including work permits and so on. But all these procedures, we need to make them dynamic. This is another important issue. It can't be a static document. The procedures which were in vogue before the occurrence of this pandemic, now many procedures have become obsolete. We talk about medical examination as a measure to assess the health of the employees. But in terms of pandemic, the question will be to do medical examination or not to do medical examination. If you're going to do so, how to protect the paramedical staff and the medical fraternity from any type of infections, and how to ensure safety and health environment practices in workplaces, accommodating the procedures involved with the pandemic related issue. In fact, many of you might be agreeing with me if I say we have had industries which talks about product flow works industries, process flow industries. Then now it's an order. Probably we should think about human oriented plant layout, ensuring less number of workers, ensuring social distance. In fact, we have come across many industries. They have made a system such that the social distance between the workers are ensured. The processes have been changed, product layout has been changed, and plant layout has been changed, and operational zones have been identified so that at no point of time, two employees come and join together. One of our suggestions we gave to the industries was that all the SOPs, SMPs, work permits, procedures, and protocols should be reviewed in terms of pandemic situation. So again, we come to the another concept in terms of resilience. So the ability to bounce back to reality, originality. And having all these done, so how we make our workplaces resilient, and how are we going to make them to come back to normalcy immediately? Like an IT industry, by doing a business continuity planning, they come back to normality, they revert back to normality at the earliest, and they try to see that the operations are taken out in a very best manner, and without even fraction of second or a minute, the operations get continued despite a big issue in a particular facility, which may be a distant dream when it comes to industries, workplaces, but still we should do our work. To put it in the nutshell, we should also think in terms of the industry's framework, in terms of innovation and infrastructure should come together as a whole. So it's a good initiative by ERDMP to have this session and to have a national webinar on the topic concern. I'm again, once again, thankful to Dr. Rakesh Dubey and his team for inviting me. Also thankful to the dignitaries who spoke before the occasion. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving the knowledge about the various aspects of OSH. And you rightly said that, like, yes, we need to empower our human resource. Some key things I have taken from your session. And you were also talking about the risk and risk management. One more thing I would like to hear is risk mitigation is also there. And yes, there's always a dire need to change the policy frameworks, in which we are really, in our country, if we see, it's a little bit laid back attitude, which usually gives us a lot of sufferings or a lot of, sometimes if we do the changes in the policy frameworks, then definitely we can be ahead and we can mitigate the risk and we can manage the risk effectively. So I think, with due permission of all the three eminent speakers, can I take a few questions which are on board? Major General Agrawal sir and Elangovan sir. So I'll be sharing the questions, and any one of you can take the charge and can answer it. Can I, sir? Can I share the question, sir?
Yeah, go ahead.
Fine. So there's a certain questions in the Q&A box, as we said in the beginning that it is an interactive session. So I will start with a question of Raghavendran sir. It is for the Dr. Elangovan sir. Dr. Elangovan sir, great insight. While IoT has superseded, can you please highlight any recent regulatory control imposed and measure to control perspective with societal risk versus environmental risk other than OHS risk, education, etc. at workplace? The question is from Raghavendra ji from Security Intelligence. It is for the Elangovan sir.
Yeah,
sir, please.
That's a very detailed question. I had already commented, the Code on Occupational Safety and Health Working Conditions 2020, which has been given by the Honorable President Assent and which has been notified by the Government of India. The Internet of Things, IoT, has been given special focus. In fact, the codes provides for web-enabled inspection system, a risk-based random inspection system. There will be also the auditors who will also be taken up on a random basis. It promotes e-documentation. In fact, all the communications have been authorized under mail communication. Even though the earlier statutes, we talk more of postal communication, registered post with acknowledgement due and all that. But the entire communications, filing of returns, serving notices, maintaining records and registers, e-documentation has been permitted. Apart from that, the Ministry of Labor is also having Shram Suvidha portal, which is also another activity administering labor welfare measures to the workers in the country. See, coming to it's an upcoming area. Talking about the other areas, it's an upcoming area. The point here is there's a big scope for each and every segment to look into it, particularly when it comes to IoT. And it is there is a lot of scope for innovation when it comes to this field. And a lot of things are happening. As I told you, we have come across people suggesting PPEs with a small chip and connecting the PPE helmet with the control panel and locating the worker, monitoring his movement, and trying to see his work performance when he is in a confined space and how he is moving. It's ensuring access control. All those things are possible. This is what I would like to say. There's an area, upcoming area, a lot of scope is there, and we need to innovate a lot to make it better, useful to the industrial framework. Thank you.
Okay, and there's a question for General Bindal sir also, again from the Raghav sir only. For General Bindal sir has written, thanks for the insights on ecological perspective. The question is, in view of recent cyclone Yas, there were some reports of multiple swirling winds. Are these new emerging trends for the region? What are the means of mitigation to maintain ecology balance? General Bindal sir, this question is for you.
Thank you. There are two questions in this. One is asking about multiple swirling winds. This particular cyclone Yas was slightly different because it was initially spanning 600 kilometers across as it was moving slowly towards the coast. And hence, it was one of the broadest cyclones in the past history for many years when it got developed. And then slowly it started constricting. So when it was about 600 kilometers broad, that was the time it had multiple swirling winds within itself. But as it hit the coast, it reduced and we had a single swirling wind with an eye, prominent eye, which went over the coast. So maybe this is a indication of what can come. Maybe it is an indication that a cyclone which is 600 kilometers across and moving at a speed of 12 kilometers an hour or whatever speed can maybe tomorrow split into two parts and strike at two different locations together also. So we don't know what will come on, but it is an indication that yes, the types of cyclones may differ. As it is, we have seen that now some of the cyclones are touching like Phony cyclone 280 kilometers per hour speed also. So there is a change in the quality of intensity of a cyclone and the behavior of a cyclone before and after it makes a landfall. So these are things which can only be seen in near future. But yes, this particular cyclone Yas has given a lot of data to the scientific world, to the researchers and academicians to predict likely scenarios for the future. So this question you have asked is a very, very pertinent one. And I'm glad that you have brought it up. And now next question is, what are the mitigation to maintain ecology balance? In this, I had given some recommendations in that. First is land use planning. Land use planning is the main reason. Yes, in the name of more business, name of development, we are cutting trees, making roads, setting up industries, and setting up industries in a area where there's a perfect ecological balance, but due to the industry coming up and associated townships which come around it, we're destroying it. So that is somewhere we have to start making a land use planning at a national level and reserve some areas which are no-go. Yeah, you see what Bhutan has done. Bhutan had 5 different pockets of forest reserves, reserved forests, and then they interconnected all the reserved forests through various highways, forest highways, animal highways, And now all the 5 reserve forests are interconnected so that the wildlife can move from one area to another and migrate and have a free hold. And there is, and for a few kilometers around the reserve forest, it's a strict no-go for any type of development, no matter what. So I think something like that has to be developed, that at least we preserve what we have, first of all, and don't allow it to be degraded further, for which strict legislation is required, and awareness programs for the officials and stakeholders who are responsible for giving permission for all the degradation of environment is very much required, that they must make it very, very strict, that there is no uh, destruction of environment in certain areas. Ours is a developing countries, so there will be development. We cannot just say that stop the development today, like in somewhere in 1990s, sorry, 1980s, there was a policy which was propagated by one of the Western world, zero growth theory, that developing world, wherever they are, they should stop growth and should stay there so that the environment is not affected further. That time, Mrs. Indira Gandhi was our prime minister, and she said, no, this we don't agree. The developed world should have a zero growth theory. The developing world should be allowed to come up to an acceptable limit, and then maybe that is acceptable. So it did not find favors and it was not implemented. So zero growth theory is not the answer. Answer is doing ecologically balanced, taking care of every ecosystem while planning any new initiative, and ensuring that what we have in forest, basically forest and marine mangroves and coastal areas which are rich in biodiversity, and maintain them the way they are. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think in continuation of this, the another question is from Ashwini, sir. I think he also talks about not the ecology balance, but yes, somewhere.
He is asking, there are two issues in this he's asking. One is that the cycle of, epidemic cycle of 70 years and 100 years respectively. Yes, it is a matter of great concern. It is a matter of great concern. 1918 to 1920, we had the Spanish flu, and so many 50 million people died in the world over, and we did not learn from that. If you see a lot of photographs of that era come, wherein we exactly did what happened that time, because somewhere institutional memory is short, and the whole generations have shifted. There's no one living who has undergone that particular area. But now I think the things are changing because of digitization and big data analytics, that we are preserving data, and that data is going to be used to predict future scenarios. So what is happening today is because of lack of empirical data of 100 years event and so on. But in future, I think we will be in a much better position. Like this particular COVID-19, so much of data collection has happened, so much of research is going on, that in future this will be used for countering any such epidemic or pandemic when it comes. Next question is green mind, green thinking, and what else based on your main experience? Yes, nature-based solution. Now, nature-based solution is the best. We have a green solution. We have a gray solution. Green solution is where we use nature totally. We have a gray solution where we use cement to ensure a mitigation, like restoration of the coastline. Their embankments are being made. So a nature-based solution is a hybrid solution which combines both the gray and the green, and ensures that along with the gray, there is nature takes its own course, and also so that it is sustainable for future. We have so many embankments which are there in on the eastern coast. And what happens during the cyclone? That the cyclone storm surge goes over those embankments and creates new flooded areas and new villages, new islands inside the coastline, and washes away some of the villages altogether. So when the villagers come back after from their shelter, they find the whole terrain has shifted. So there is a balance between the two, that such type of interventions should take care of how the nature is going to perform, and also ensure that the natural nature, uh, uh, the way nature heals itself, should also be brought about in the uh, intervention that we are talking about. So yes, green mind and green thinking is very, very important. That is why everyone is talking about plant a tree. Wherever you are, plant a tree, or if there's a sapling anywhere, you look after it and help it to grow into a big tree, because that is going to give you so rich dividends. So green mind, green thinking is the solution. And if everyone of us starts thinking on those lines, it automatically becomes a nature-based solution to all other environmental degradation and climate change issues. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, any key insights by Rajiv Agrawal, sir, on green thinking and green innovation or green ethics? How industry can go forward with this, sir? Any ideas from your side?
Industry is already going. If you remember, we were in a conference where we were talking about green marketing. In fact, everything is becoming green these days, right from the green industries to green buildings to green standards. Only thing is to reduce greenhouse effects. I saw that question from Raghavendra ji. Thank God I read about it, about Paris Agreement, which most of you must be knowing, but those who don't know, it's a legally binding agreement with 196 signatories to it. So whole idea is, I don't know how we are performing on it, because I believe my Prime Minister, who says we will do it much better, much before 2030. The target will be completed much before 2030. If that is going to be the case, then definitely we are on right track. There is a green manufacturing, there are green buildings, there is a green energy, and there is a green marketing. Everything is happening on green, and we are still working on it. I only worry that green cover is reducing, and if Paris Agreement targets are to be met, we need to double our green cover, but I don't know where it is happening. But then if Prime Minister says, let us believe him that it is happening. So thank you, Dr. Sangeeta.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So observing the time restrictions and timelines, because all of you have joined us for 2 hours. So now when we are talking about all these things, pros and cons and future aspect, so here comes the role of the education institutions, the role comes of the academies, because we always say, as sir has said, rightly said, R.K. Ilangovan said, that we have the knowledge, and there's a little bit gap in understanding. And I'll add one more thing here, is that we acquire things, but it is a little bit gap in acquiring and applying. So application is also very important. And we have from the 4 o'clock till now, we are approaching towards 6 o'clock. If you see the flow, we have touched upon the diversity part. We have touched upon that how we can innovate, how we can bring out the innovation in industry, infrastructure, and how we can manage and mitigate the risk, and we can look for the safety and health measurements, so as to be proactive rather than reactive, which I always believe in the first success mantra of Stephen Covey. So in that regard, now we are trying to be a little bit proactive. The ERDMP, NIDM, and Rabindranath Tagore University, these 3 institutions brainstorm, gave a thought on this, and the mastermind is none other than the Rakesh Dubey sir, who is having an immense experience as a former director of Disaster Management Institute Bhopal, and presently serving as CEO of ERDMP Bhopal. So we saw the seed, this thought, the seed of this particular seed of doing something in this regard, giving the knowledge as before, and then coming up with the application of the same. So we did a little bit of brainstorming, or not say little bit, in-depth brainstorming sessions. We had an understanding, and finally today is the day wherein Dr. Rakesh Dubey sir will be coming up with a plan that how we can, as an institution, support this fraternity by giving something to this generation in terms of knowledge, so that they can apply things in advance, and can manage the risk, and can mitigate the risk, especially in the field of chemical industrial safety and disaster. So to give more insight of this, as we have the expert with us, so I will not take much time to explain about this. I request Dr. Rakesh Dubey, sir, CEO ERDMP, to share his future plans, because finally something should come out of these all discussions and interaction. So if I give a quick review of the interaction we did on 12th January, wherein we talk about the SDG 4 and in consensus, today we have talked about SDG 9, how now we are coming up with having an integration of all these things and finally coming up with one concrete plan. So I request Dr. Dubey to come forward with his plan and to please share all these things with the eminent gathering. Sir, please, it's over to you. Rakesh, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Johari, for putting this seminar in the concluding phase. That's our intention. Before we go for the roadmap of our program, it is my pleasure to welcome my very, very old friend, presently DG Fastly, Dr. R.K. Langoban, and I remember that we spoke on this aspect number of times from time to time when we met in number of platforms. So welcome, Dr. R.K. Langoban, DG Fastly. I also having privilege to honor Mr. Rajiv Agrawal, who is the president of Mandideep Industrial Association. It is my privilege and I am delighted to honor my co-host, Honorable VC of RNTU, Dr. Brahm Prakash Pethiaji, and not the least, Major General Manoj Kumar Bindal Sahab, who is the ED of NIDM. He is always inspiration to me personally. When I was in Disaster Management Institute, only a small call, he used to give a lot of attention. Thank you, sir, for agreeing for our joint effort, and for all audiences, NIDM will be partner for this program. Dr. Vijay Singh, who is the registrar, who is the executive person of this, who will push this concept, and Dr. Johari, who is the coordinator of this program, my colleague, Mr. Ram S. Meena, who is coordinating on behalf of ERDMP Academy. So, whatever our chief guest told, what ED and IDM has said, what about SDG 9, Shri VC has told, all are agreeing that we are having enough knowledge. We are having enough knowledge. We are having a skilled and knowledgeable person. But in spite of that, we are having problem in environmental conservation, restoration of conservation. We are having still very repeated and frequent accidents in the industries across the total nation. And I should say since last 1 year, from May to May, from 7th May to this end of this month, we have more than 35 fatal accidents. So we can imagine that in spite of all knowledge, all regulation we are seeing, and DG Fastly is agreeing that he is having a lot of codes of practices on OSH. Environment Ministry has made tremendous regulation under EPA Act. No need to repeat those rules and regulations. Factories Act, again under 48, they have done number of regulations. PESO has also made number of rules and regulations for so many things. And apart from that, we are having regulatory agencies. In the national level, we are having CPCB. At the national level, from the explosive point of view, PESO is there. From OSH point of view, our friend DG Fastly is here. At the state level, we are having SPCBs. We are having Chief Inspector of Factories offices. And we are having learned faculty member, or you can say the learned persons, those who are running big industries, very hazardous industry with us. But in spite of that, we are facing accident. Second point, in the recent SDG evaluation of Government of India by NITI Aayog in this week, 2 days back, it is a surprise that SDG 9 is in a challenging phase. 14 states are not having scored 50 marks. you can say out of 28. It's a big challenge. That is another point. And I would like to highlight certain issues which are very important. We always confuse in environment the disasters. When there is a emission of smoke from chimney, it is general understanding. People say, you see, the disaster is going on of the emission. No, since we don't have understanding about the pollution and the disasters, we generally confuse one component with the other component. That's another thing. Then, then we are again in a position to failing the new role of our uh, regulators. We are also failing the new role by our industries. We are also failing our new role as an industrial entrepreneur. We are also failing to understand our role as an educationist. We are also failing our role as a community society. So you can see that all these stakeholders, though we are at one place, we are playing a community, in other place we are an industrialist like that. Something is missing about the understanding of those things. And along with this, we are also failing to understand the meaning of or the difference between the awareness, knowledge, and skill. And I understand that in failing the awareness, knowledge, and skill, we are facing a lot of accident and disasters. I will say a simple example to all of us. We know that how to drive a car. We are driving our car daily. Since years we are driving. But can we drive a truck having 16 wheels? Can we drive a truck is having even normal truck? We can't drive because we have never practiced to drive that car, that truck or that heavy vehicle. Meaning to say we know that how four vehicle can be drive, but we never practice. So this is something different between the skill development, knowledge and awareness. So this is also need to be filled. And as per my understanding, our friends will agree that if this is missing. Networking is missing with various regulatory agencies. You say SPCBs in the state are working in their own mode, and the PESO of the state, which is not located in each state, but the regional offices, there are no dialogue with SPCB, with the state inspectorate of factories, with the PESO. And that gap is also creating a lot of, challenges, questions for us. And I understand they are failing to coordinate because some knowledge is missing, some uh, some networking is missing, and I understand because they don't share the best practices amongst themselves. That is again the driving force to understand these gaps are also on this. And the driving force for this course, which I was thinking since long time, and I should share with the floor. I shared this fact also to our friend DG Fasli, that when we do as a government part something, we try to implement it. Somewhere, sometimes it is held up. And I should say one example that sometimes government asks us when I was in an officer in a government, that why don't you make a national action plan for chemical industrial disaster management? We made it. It is having all these gaps. Uh, it is having all suggestive way to address those things. But after making that plan, it is not being attended. Meaning to say that yes, we are willing to do, but we fail to do. Meaning to say if we are failing to do, or our system is failing to do, why don't we go for the next of our alternate route? And that alternate route is nothing but the knowledge, but knowledge operation, knowledge development. No one can stop it. So this type of things ultimately leads towards the knowledge capacity development, and this will help us in filling the gap of the data which is available in our system. Lot of data are available, but correlation is missing. So definitely we can think about on this aspect through a formal education. And definitely the industrial health, safety and environment and disaster, they are working in isolation. So we have to club uh, means jointly in a coordinated way. So these are certain areas which uh, force us to do to initiate certain things. So we thought that why don't we initiate this thing? And I made a roadmap to all of you. I think this roadmap must be visible to all of you. Is it visible to all of you? Hello, Dr. Johari,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is visible.
Yeah. So I'm just making suggesting that this is our way of making the plan, this education system. We are not going to make a degree or BE or BA or BCom or MBA. No, we don't want to create again a army of unemployed person. Okay, no, that's not our intention. Our intention is to have a certain leadership development program. We want to develop certain leaders. Leaders may be the fresh students also. Leaders may be the existing practicing persons. They may be the regulators. They may be from industries. They may be from our civil society. They may be from army. They may be from civil defense. You know, any part, they can be from that part. So that is the core, you can say, revolving principle of this leadership development program. On which topic? Our topic is well defined. We are not going to dilute this topic. That is the chemical, industrial safety and disaster management. Before coining this topic, we had a number of roundtable discussion amongst our all the three players. That is RNTU, Rabindranath Tagore University. We had discussion with NITM and definitely within ourselves, that is ERDMP, and with regulators also. And no doubt I cannot miss our chief guest, DG Fasle, who played a vital role on that. And we thought, let's fix this chemical, industrial safety and disaster. It comes all. When you speak about the safety, it has a part of the environmental safety. It also have a component of environmental conservation. It also have a safety of the chemical. It also have a safety of industry also. And when anything fails in this part, it happens to the disaster. And when anything goes wrong and the disaster happens, then the impact goes for the safety of the environment and the industry. So this is the core thought for this program and the title of this program. Now, yeah. Now, again, to highlight the things, by this program already I have narrated, but yes, after having this Niti Aayog report, this week has strengthened, as well as given boost and has given confidence to us that SDG 9, for which we are doing this webinar, it is coincidence that we are discussing on SDG 9, and it is coincidence that 3 days back or 2 days back, Niti Aayog said that SDG 9 is, you know, what is his what they have concluded, that means I would write to it, read it, that highest aspirant are the 14 states. Means the score of the 14 states are below 40, below 50. You can imagine, out of half of the states are missing. I have not considered the Union Territory and the yes, Union Territory, almost except Delhi, all are going behind, and only few states are making good. Out of that, yes, 6 states are front runner. Gujarat is no doubt is the front runner. Maharashtra is there, Karnataka is there, Haryana is there, you know. So these are the front runner, and 8 states are somewhere in the middle. Meaning to say, yes, we need this program badly. If we do this program successfully to address safety and disaster, I understand that SDG will automatically address this part because SDG 9, when we go for the sub-component, sub-goal, sub-target, targets of SDG 9, they sometimes, somehow, in different mode, directly or indirectly, are highlighting that we are failing because we fail to address environment, we fail to address safety, we fail to address accident, we fail to address occupational safety indexes, we fail to reduce the accident in the occupational sector and also at the off-site or on-site L2, L3 disaster or the accident. So this SDG 9 observation of this week again advocates us, our three partners, that we are going in the right direction. And ultimately, we lead to this, that this program should not lead to the only chemical industrial disaster management. No, we will develop capacity of our target audiences, those who will come, for the capacity development as a leader in workplace to address business continuity management planning. Ultimately, when industry thinks, when regulator thinks, when community thinks, if we preserve, if we protect our safety, if we increase safety, if we control disaster risk reduction, ultimately we are doing nothing. We are protecting our business, we are protecting our life. So ultimately, we will focus that how this course will address the business continuity management planning. So business continue, any accident will cause heavy economic loss, heavy cost on the life. You go for any accident, thousands of crores of losses we are facing by accident. If even less than 1% or even say 0.001% if we invest on capacity development, I think we can save thousands of crores by promoting this concept, and ultimately we are promoting our business continuity management planning. The focus will on this part. So that is the overall umbrella, but definitely these are the certain subcomponents, and these subcomponents may definitely get some revision after this webinar. That was our intention also. Otherwise, otherwise we have launched the brochure, the dates of everything, but intentionally we stop. Let's have a feedback also, and it's a good participants are with us. So what are our key takeaway of this course? Basically, to develop leaders in skill and ability to understand business continuity management plan. We will focus that for this program will add that how we should ensure that our business should continue in spite of any type of the disaster, or how we should run our business that accident should not happen. That is one thing. We will ensure that proper coordination among the regulators and governments and peer industry is important. During my life, during my almost 38 years of life, of the official life, I should say I traveled a lot across the country, and I also got opportunity to across the globe also. I participated UN's conferences. The first UN conference of 2005 of Kobe, I participated there, and I understood there when I participated, when I observed there, that yes, the linkages between regulators, government, and peer industries is missing. How to establish linkages with the networking? Because some work, lot of regulation are overlapping. Your environment regulations or rules are overlap with the safety. PESO also overlap with the DG Fastly and also with the environment. So how we are missing, where the gaps are, where we have to fill up the gaps. That is that will again a major takeaway point of this course. Definitely, we will address about the sustainability, because now the sustainable concept has come up, and all our dignitaries will agree that even today, in government sector, in regulation, there is no linkages between SDG goal that is 2015-2030, with the SFDRR 2015-2030 and the Paris Agreement 2015. Meaning to say that how we can make certain arrangement that it can be boost up this type of coordination so that we can address indirectly or directly about the climate change. UND, the Sustainable Development Goal will focus on the climate change. SFDR will address on the disaster management. But when we see the minutely, there are a lot of overlapping. These goals overlap with the targets and goals of the SFDR and vice